people seem to be eager as of late to start discussion groups everywhere. In Buddhism there is almost every hour, probably around the world, you will find at least a few discussion groups going on. Previously it was in person most of the time, but now in addition to that, you have countless online discussion groups. And everyone is eager to shoot out their words, their thoughts on, well, in this case, Buddhist discussion groups, and their thoughts and their comments about some text and some commentary and some sutta, some discourse. Discussion group after discussion group. And some of them actually are individuals, are in more than one discussion group. This reminds me of 12-step programs that many people who are struggling with addictions or with alcohol, such as alcohol or drugs or some other type of an addiction, they go to get support. But what happens invariably, the person might find a sponsor, might find a person to help them, but what happens is, usually, the mind might put down, the person might put down the habit, but will pick up another addiction, namely, being in that group. Not just that group, but other groups. I once knew of someone who was struggling with addictions and had been sober for some time, but then he shared with me the fact that he had, per week, I think anywhere from 7 to 9 different 12-step programs that he was taking part in from around the world, anywhere from Europe to Asia to Australia, the whole America. So you develop new relationships and new discussions. Some might say, well, at least it's not that toxic as, let's say, a terrible addiction like alcoholism or drug addiction or some other type of an addiction. That might be the case, at least on the surface, but what is happening to the person? That is what we need to be concerned about. So, coming back to the Buddhist discussion groups, my question very simply is, why? Really, what is it that we're trying to get to? Yeah, what are we trying to get to with that? What's wrong with you sitting there and meditating? Instead of a discussion group, you can do a meditation session with a group and just sit quietly. Maybe read a verse from a sutta. Not to analyze it, because you have plenty of commentators out there in the world. And in fact, everyone has become a commentator. Ever so, once every several years, For some reason, someone sends me something and I look at it and it connects me to one of these discussion forums, and just quickly I just look at it and just breeze through it, and I see it might start with a simple question or a comment. And then suddenly you see within a few, I don't even know what you call them, like updates or entries, you see how it has changed into, well, there's aggression, there's forcefulness, there's contention, definitely. One discussion after group, a group after another, you see this happen. We don't need that many discussion groups in our lives. And what is there to discuss? Aren't you doing that already all the time in your head? Now you have to spew it out into other people's heads, and they the same to you. This is ridiculous. Our culture loves talking. I have to talk because I have to express my thoughts to students and the questions that I get. But it's torture. I don't want to talk, but I feel I have to because I have to. But I can't wait to just close my mouth and just sit quietly. To absorb what this sutta or that verse being referred to might do to the heart, might do to the mind. But you will never get that in a discussion group. So, but at the same time, I don't want to be coming across as just completely nullifying discussions and things. No. But it must be a very, very, very small percentage of your practice. Not the other way around, where the very, very, very small percentage being dedicated to is of your energy and your endeavor in, let's say, even if you have a genuine interest in the Dhamma, to know the Dhamma, it should not be the minuscule portion of that effort must not be your quiet practice in seclusion. That must be the priority. That's my message here. Not running like a headless chicken from one discussion group to the next, trying to prove your point. Well, guess who does that also? Trolls do that, and many of these discussion groups have trolls in them. These are not, trolls like AI or something, or somebody from outside. Someone who doesn't like to talk about Buddhist concepts, but just is there to create arguments and things. No, many of the individuals seeking to engage in conversations have gathered some information, have read some books or attended some retreats or some teachers' seminars or lectures. But the kilesas in their hearts are so strong that instead of arguing, debating and fighting and quarreling about, let's say, who won this game or who will win the next game, which political party is the correct one, instead of arguing about those points, now the object has changed, but the energy is the same. So sometimes I just laugh, sadly, with seeing these individuals who call themselves Buddhist. And then I see what's really going on. The moment you say something that disagrees with it was a political party, let's say, or which game they root for, But now it is, if it goes against their own point of view, well, you know what's going to happen. Quarreling. So many times people, when they join discussion groups, are trying to find people who resonate with them, and if they don't, they're out to prove them wrong. That gives them a rush. It's an addiction. It's an addiction, like I was saying, with the 12-step program. The person is running away from the addiction, but is now caught up. Fortunately, the individual I was referring to, he realized courageously, and he's like, no, I'm going to stop this. This is ridiculous. And he decreased it to, I think, once a week eventually, and then even stopped that altogether because he had to rely on himself. Go on with one's life. And in Buddhism, we have that also. You go on with your life. You leave the discussion group and you go on with your life. That is what we call practicing on your own, which is lacking. Seclusion is lacking in people who call themselves on the path of Lord Buddha, practicing the Eightfold Path, for example. They're too invested in putting their thoughts out there to make a point or for this week and to argue. They hear something, they're dying to come out and bring it down. These are the people who will never ever experience Nibbana so long as they are holding on to that position. You have countless students and people like that who approached Lord Buddha from that premise, from that position. Lord Buddha did not engage with them. He had to show them the right path, and many of the bhikkhus were coming from that school, that kind of schools rather, of debating. So let's not engage in wasting time in these discussion groups, whether they're Buddhist or not. I mean, come on, work on yourself. Stop trying to prove to the world that you're right. How about that? Know that you're right. If you're right, wonderful. Base it on facts, base it on experience. Look at it from the outside position, outside in, to see how would you look at a person who might be holding this kind of a position. Might not be your position, but how would you view them? And then go ahead and live your life. In this case, practice on your own. No substitute could be found for that. That's the only way you're going to attain Nibbana, not by joining discussion groups. But today's modern ages, people who practice meditation, becoming experts, they are the ones who have the hardest time buying this.